Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another thought-provoking lesson with your teacher and servant, humble servant. Hopefully I stay humble, Mr. Smith. And before we begin this exploration into this funky looking picture that I got on the screen here, I want to give a shout out to Kwame Brown. I think that's how you pronounce it, Kwame Brown. He's been on fire on YouTube, and I haven't really watched basketball or been into basketball since Magic Johnson and the 1980s and early 90s Lakers when I was a young lad. And so I don't know much, but I do know that if you do check out Kwame Brown and what he's been talking about, I got to give a shout out to the guy because it goes, what he's talking about is way beyond basketball, right? And he's raising, whatever he's doing this. He's raising people's awareness as to what's going on and breaking some, I guess you could say lies, or just maybe not lies, but just general mentalities and attitudes that need to change. So shout out to him. Check it out. I'm down with anybody that's for truth and helping people to raise their awareness for things. So here we go. Let's get to this thing. What is this thing right here? What is this little scary thing, right? That's supposed to represent, the scary thing that starts with a V that everybody's afraid of. Okay, this is what that picture is supposed to represent, and I don't want to say the actual word because I know I want to respect the YouTube platform. And so I'm going to avoid the actual words of what this is called. Now, I don't think that this picture you see on the screen, this cute little guy with red little, I don't know what those things are coming off it, I don't think that's what a scary particle that starts with a V looks like. I don't think that's what it looks like at all. Okay, so I propose the idea that this is just some sort of artist or drawing of what could be anything, but they're calling it that scary particle that starts with a V. And they're showing it everywhere. So let's look at another depiction of this scary particle that starts with a V. Here it is in blue. So now you got the scary particle that starts with a V in the color of blue. I didn't realize it came in different colors. It's like buying a car. You can get a red one, a white one with red little poofy things. You can get a blue one here with light blue highlights. That's nice. You know, in all my biology classes in high school and college, I never was told or never was shown that this is what a scary particle that starts with a V looks like. You ever wonder why all of a sudden it looks like this over the past year? This little kind of ball thing with sucker things sticking out and comes in different colors. Think about it. Now, this is what we were told in my day. This is what we were shown what a scary particle that starts with a V looks like. Completely different, huh? It's got little crab-like legs, and it looks like it could penetrate a Kevlar vest, and man, it's scary looking. It's got a pentagonal cone drilling thingy. Very intimidating looking. But this is what we were told. This is what a scary particle that starts with a V looked like in my biology and science textbooks. Huh. Look at it standing there like a phallic symbol, kind of like the the obelisk. Very different. Now, one more picture. Now, this is what I'm told those scary particles that start with a V look like under a microscope, an electron microscope. That looks like some nasty, sweaty, skanky soup of some sort. I don't even want to know. So, will the real scary particle with a V stand up and reveal who you are? Interesting. You think maybe these previous pictures were just somebody's imagination? Let's make up a scary particle and debut it to the public and tell everybody to be afraid of it. Just something to think about. Now, we're going to go to one of my favorite books, and if you've seen some of my previous videos and posts, you know I think everybody should get this book. But let's see what one of my favorite books has to say about this. Yes, my favorite book, or one of my favorite books. One of them. What Really Makes You Ill: Why Everything You Thought You Knew About Disease Is Wrong, by Don Lester and David Parker. This, like I said, this book does not mess around. I've said this every time I read out of this book. We're going to look at the section titled Viruses. Scary particles that start with V, sorry. And I'm not going to read all of this, but we'll start here. It says, during the 19th century, scientists who believed in the, quote, germ theory had been able to discover a variety of bacteria that appeared to be associated with a number of diseases they were investigating. Oh, by the way, germ theory has never been shown to be proven in any way, shape, or form. And, well, let's read on. That's something that I really want people to think about. Okay, but let's read on here. However, they were unable to find a bacterial or even fungal agent associated with some of those diseases. This led them to the belief that there had to be some other organism that was responsible for those other diseases. They believed that it must be an organism that was too small to be seen through the optical microscopes of the period. So, you know where I'm going. They eventually named this other organism, they named it with the first letter V, right? And it's a scary, invisible, microscopic particle that starts with a V that causes disease. Let's read on. It was only after the invention of the electron microscope in the 1930s that particles smaller than bacteria could be observed in samples taken from people with certain diseases. It was these tiny particles that became known as scary particles that start with the letter V, if you get my drift, and assumed to be the causal agents of all diseases that could not be attributed to bacteria. No proof, they just assumed. The discovery of particles in samples taken from people with a disease and the assumption that this represents a causal relationship is akin to blaming firemen as being the causes of fires because they are directly associated with fire and often found at premises that are ablaze. Think about it. As Black Rum 313 says, think about it. I'm going to read that again. The discovery of particles in samples taken from people with a disease and the assumption that this represents a causal relationship is akin to blaming firemen as being the causes of fires. because they are directly associated with fire and are often found at premises that are ablaze. This analogy serves to highlight the potentially dire consequences that can result from the misinterpretation of an observed phenomenon and from incorrect assumptions about an association between the different factors involved. It may be claimed that the association between these scary particles that start with a V and human disease has been experimentally observed and scientifically established. But as will be demonstrated, this would be an incorrect claim. Okay? And the book goes on to explain why associating disease with these scary particles called starting with a V. The book goes on to explain that that is not necessarily a correct claim. Okay, and I want to read this, right? One thing they do know about these scary particles that start with a V, quote, and this is a doctor, says Dr. Lynn Margulis, okay, a renowned biologist and member of the prestigious National Academy of Sciences. She says, quote, they are not alive since outside living cells they do nothing, ever. Viruses require, I just said it, V, scary particles that start with a V, require the metabolism of a live cell because they lack the requisites to generate their own. Metabolism, the incessant chemistry of self-maintenance, is an essential feature of life. These particles lack this metabolism. And it goes on. I'm going to skip here because I'm going to make this a short-ish one, because we can get into this book later, as usual, and do more. But hopefully, this will stimulate you guys to go out and research this on your own. It might save you a lot of money in the long run, and it might make you sleep better at night. But here's an interesting thing that relates to the scary pictures that I showed you. Quote, there is clearly a significant effort to promote the view that these particles that start with a V are living entities. The main reason for this is because this view helps to justify the claims that these particles are infectious agents that can be transmitted between people and cause deadly diseases. But there is a major problem with the idea that these scary particles that start with a V can be transmitted between people, because, as Dr. Margulis states, any particle that starts with a V outside the membrane of a live cell is inert. And this book goes on to show true scientific experiments that show that you can sneeze on somebody and you can do a lot of things and the other person won't get sick. It's not so. We will leave it there. Well, let's read this real quick. Let's skip down. It says, the transmission of any particles that start with a V attached to saliva or mucus traveling through the air has never been observed. These particles are only ever observed in a laboratory under an electron microscope. The transmission of these particles in the air is an assumption, as is their ability to travel through a human body. What? Okay. Now, I might have to just put this video strictly on my Patreon page, because I know YouTube does not like people to talk about this. And, I'll respect the platform. So, but we'll see if it lasts on YouTube. Anyway, something to think about. And just another example, in my humble opinion, as your humble servant, that these scary looking pictures that they show you of these particles that start with the letter V these balls with red little sucker things. I don't even know what you call them, and they come in blue, and they have different. They're just artist drawings. They don't know what these things really look like at that level of detail. Now, if there's somebody out there that has seen these particles that start with a V under a microscope and can show me what they look like, or show me that they look like one of these balls with sucker things sticking off them, let me know. I mean, hey, let me know. Anywho, this is your classes dismissed. This is your humble servant, Mr. Schmidt. And please like and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next one. All right, everybody, God bless, and have a wonderful rest of your day or evening.